If zodiac signs were movies, what would the poster look like? I was scrolling through Pinterest, searching for inspiration on what to draw, and I came across these illustrations by Greg Wright, and I thought to myself, hey, this seems like a fun challenge. Maybe I should give it a try. There was just one tiny problem. I know nothing about zodiac signs. I asked my girlfriend for help. Neither of us are experts in this topic. She was kind enough to make a PowerPoint presentation explaining each zodiac signs. It has like icons, some descriptions, colors. Is perfect for what I need. So if you want to give this challenge a try for yourself, I'm going to leave that link in the description. So I have 3 goals for this challenge. Number 1, each one has to be an illustration. Number 2, it has to tell a story. And number 3, it must be eye-catching. Like if this was actually in a movie theater, would it compel you to go watch it? Okay, let's begin. We're starting off this challenge with Pisces. This is a water sign. It's represented by 2 fish, and some words we can use to describe them are that they can be dreamers, mystical, and sensitive. I did a couple of sketches, and this one is the one that I decided to go with. Anytime I'm working on an illustration, I try to find meaning to it, whether that's a song or a quote I'm reminded of. And for Pisces, I was reminded of the quote from the classic tale, The Little Prince, that goes, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." So let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm using Photoshop and I'm using the lasso tool to add the shapes. And once I have clear silhouettes, I start adding shadows and details. For this one, I wanted to add a secondary color to make it pop a little bit more because it was looking a bit too blue. I was debating in between yellow or pink, and at the end, I chose pink. Then I went to Illustrator and I played around with some text, and this is how the final poster turned out. The next poster I'm going to be working on is Scorpio. So Scorpio is represented by a scorpion, and some words we can use to describe this sign is that they can be enigmatic, passionate, and mysterious. So with this in mind, I looked for references that gave off this spooky kind of vibe, and I start to sketch. So since I'm looking like for a quote or a song or something that reminds me of the illustration that I'm doing, the one I found for Scorpio was from one of my favorite books that's called A Gentle Reminder, and it goes, "I need you to know that you exist in multitudes, that you are the product of what is both hopeful and haunted within you. And it is okay to exist in this world as someone who is simply figuring out how to balance that." On the process of adding shapes and colors, I noticed that the sun that I had on my initial sketch wasn't gonna work. And that was because Scorpio is actually a water sign. This actually shocked me. I never would have guessed that. So I decided to add a storm instead. One thing that I'm trying to get better at is at typography, because I feel like a font could either make or break your design. But after playing around with some font scales and colors, this is how the poster for Scorpio turned out. I forgot to mention that I'm doing this challenge in no specific order. The next poster I decided to work on was Aries. This is a fire sign represented by the symbol of a ram, and they can be spontaneous, energetic, and intense. So for Aries, I knew I wanted it to be very chaotic. Like I wanted red, fire, explosion. And the more time I spent working on this illustration, it was giving me the vibe of when you reach the final boss of a video game. And I really liked that. Anytime I'm working on an illustration, I tend to switch it to black and white from time to time to check my values. Values are basically how dark or light your image is. And one way to know your values are working on a piece is when you take away the colors and the elements are still easy to understand. I wanted to do something a bit different with the text, so I added a clipping mask to hide some letters behind the illustration, and this is how the final poster for Aries turned out. The next poster I decided to work on was Virgo. This is an earth sign, and some words we can use to describe them is that they can be analytical, organized, and caring. So this is the point of this challenge that I started to struggle. Since Virgo is represented by a virgin, I wanted to include that somehow in the piece, but I wasn't fully convinced because it was given Peter Pan vibes. I asked for some feedback, and I was given the idea of adding a face on one of the trees to convey this feeling of connecting with nature. There's a quote that I really like from the book, The Power of Now, that goes, "Touch something, anything, and feel and acknowledge its being." And this is how the final piece turned out. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see similar content, then you can subscribe to my channel. Let's continue. Sagittarius is a fire sign represented by a centaur archer, and they can be adventurous, philosophical, and curious. And again, the process was a little messy with this one. I wanted to convey a traveler going through the journey of self-discovery, but I wasn't so sure of how to do that. I have this bad habit of expecting my illustrations to look good immediately, forgetting sometimes to simply enjoy the process. There's a quote that I once heard that says, "Sometimes it's the journey that teaches you about the destination." And this is how the poster for Sagittarius turned out. This is an earth sign and is represented by a goat. Capricorns can be hardworking, reliable, and ambitious. So while I was doing research on what to draw for Capricorn, I learned that goats are actually great climbers. So this is the type of references that I use as inspiration for this piece. I'm currently reading the book The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wyeth, and there's a quote that goes, "Give yourself credit for everything you've overcome that you never thought you would, and everything you've built that you never thought you could. You've come so much further than you think, and you're so much closer than you realize." And here we have the final result. I'm having so much fun and I'm learning a lot while doing this challenge. I'm excited to keep on developing this project and to take you along this artistic journey. Stay tuned for part 2 where I'll be finishing these signs, and I'll see you soon. Bye.